Welcome to another episode of Mindful Musicians with Nancy Schleier. And today we have on Jessica Lloyd, and she is an energy healer.
I own Blooming Lotus Energy Healing. And what I do is using Reiki and other techniques, I help people to heal their bodies, their emotions, their spirituality. I help people with mental health problems. I love what I do. It's like a combination of life coaching and energy healing together.
Talked about what energy healing means to you and how you define it.
Energy healing for me is magic. For me, I found energy healing as I was trying to heal chronic illness. I found that working on releasing the stuck emotions from my body was more helpful to me than taking all of the medication that the doctors were giving me to treat my autoimmune disease. I was able to get off all of my medication for my autoimmune disease using energy healing. I use Reiki the most. Reiki takes universal energy because everything's made out of energy, and it directs that energy to the body, and then as it goes through the body, it helps to release crap that shouldn't be there. It helps to balance your energy. It helps to bring your energy back into alignment. Because when your energy isn't flowing, when it's not in alignment, when it's stagnant, that's when you don't feel good. And you can not feel good physically, emotionally, spiritually, or mentally. And Reiki can help on all of those different areas. One of the things that I have found it to be really good with is helping people to just feel better. You just feel lighter. You feel like you can manage life better.
I've heard of Reiki before, and I'll be honest, I don't know very much about it. All I know is that it utilizes crystals, if I'm remembering that right.
You don't need to use crystals with Reiki. You can. I
Okay.
am certified as a crystal Reiki master, but you don't need anything but your body to do Reiki. It's so simple. Reiki is when you kiss your kid's boo boo. It's that energy exchange. You can do Reiki on someone just by touching them. The difference between being attuned to Reiki and just using that energy is when you're attuned to Reiki, you're pulling it from the universe instead of using your own energy. It's like using a satellite dish to direct it instead of just letting it flow, because it's all around us. It's everywhere.
What are some techniques or tools that you use to help you as you're focusing that energy, as you're harnessing that and helping others?
When I'm working with Reiki, it's like meditation. I focus it using my mind, just like you do in meditation, and I use it to just check my body. So I use the chakras a lot
Okay.
in Reiki. So I'll check the crown chakra, which is I'm holding my hands above my head because that's where it is. Your crown chakra is just above your head, and it is your connection to your higher power. And it doesn't matter what you believe your higher power is. We all have it. We're all connected to a higher power. That higher power you can believe in, like God or the universe, or you can believe in lots of gods. Doesn't matter. It could be the angels. It could be yourself as your higher self, could be your higher power. Doesn't matter. But that's where you connect. And when I check the crown chakra, I check to see that chakra is working right. Chakra is the Sanskrit word for wheel. These energy centers that we have in our bodies, the chakras, they start at the top of your head, they run down your spine. Those are the 7 main ones that we have. But there are lots more. There are small ones all over our body. But these 7 main ones are the ones I work with the most. And then the third eye it's right here, smack in the middle of your head. It connects with your pituitary pineal gland, and it connects you to your intuition. It connects you to all of your psychic abilities. We all have them. We're all born with them. Some of us are just born more talented than others. We can all access them through practice. So just like with music, you got to practice playing your piano. You got to practice singing. You got to practice your instrument. If you
Yeah.
practice your third eye, you can develop those psychic abilities. And then the next chakra they work on is the throat.
Mhm.
Singing is so amazing for your throat chakra. Your throat chakra is where you're able to speak your
Mhm.
truth, where you're able to communicate with other people. If you're really reserved, your
Mhm.
throat chakra is probably small. If you
Mhm.
are the kind of person who talks to just be heard, like you just want to hear yourself talk, your throat chakra is probably overbalanced. It's probably too big and probably needs to be reined in. But singing and music is really good for your energy.
Yeah.
Because this is just going through my head right now. You can balance your masculine and your feminine, your right and your left energy
Mhm.
by moving your arms across yourself. When you're leading music and
Yeah.
you're swinging your arms, if you lead with both arms, you're
Mhm.
balancing the energy in your body.
You mentioned the throat chakra and that you were like talking about how if it's too small, I primarily teach piano, but I've also been teaching voice for about 10 plus years. How many people will come in for a voice lesson and be unable to make a sound the first
It's because their
several
throat
lessons?
chakra, you got to
They carry
loosen
so
it
much
up.
tension in the
Yeah.
throat. I had one student who I think I taught them for 3 months before they ever made a sound for me. We would just talk the whole time, and her parent would be like, "Did she sing today?" And I was like, "Not today." But that's so interesting. That's where you hold a lot of like your truths.
If you're having a hard time speaking your truth, you're probably going to have a hard time singing. Sometimes it's hard to put your thoughts into your own words, and
Mhm.
there might be a song, lyrics that really resonate with you, and you might be able to express it that way
Yeah.
instead of just trying to come up with it on your own. And so I think music is super powerful, super, super
Mhm.
powerful. I love music, and music is really good. I'll get to that in a little bit, but music can be
Okay.
used to heal your chakras. Okay, so
That's
the next chakra is your heart chakra. And that is where you feel your self love, love for others, romantic love, family love, friend love, love for your community, love for the world. And it's where you have your boundaries. So if you're having a hard time holding your boundaries, it's in your heart.
mm. That kind of sounds like maybe it's tied to some self-love, maybe.
Yes. So people pleasing comes from a heart chakra that is too big. You're
Got
giving too much. Your boundaries are too big. You got to pull it in, love
it.
yourself, and protect yourself. Because if you don't, people are going to walk all over you. The
Yes.
next chakra is your solar plexus. It's
Okay.
between your belly button and your rib cage.
Okay.
And that one is, it's like your identity, your self identity, your self worth, your personal drive, knowing who you are and what you want out of life. It's
Okay.
also where you store your truth. So your solar
Mm.
plexus and your throat chakra are very connected. So if you don't know who you are or what you want out of life, you're probably going to have problems here too.
That's so interesting. Whenever I am having trouble expressing and I feel my throat start to close up, I feel it there too. That's so interesting that they're connected like that.
So the next one is your sacral chakra,
Mhm.
which is below your belly button.
Mhm.
It is very much connected to reproduction.
Okay.
It is your creative center. So if you're having problems with being creative, if you're
Mhm.
having problems in your sexual relationships, that's where it's going to be. So when you're feeling creative, and singing is a form of creativity, playing music is a form of
Mhm.
creativity. People who are in the music world, they are usually very creative people. So if you're feeling stuck in your music, check your sacral chakra. The last chakra we're going to talk about is your root chakra. Your root chakra is at the base of your spine. It is your security and your safety. It
Okay.
connects you to your community. It is where you're connected to the world. It is, if you don't feel safe in your home, if you're not feeling financially safe, that's where you're going to feel it, is in your root
Mm.
chakra. Each one of the chakras has its own vibration wavelength. You know how each music note has their own vibration wavelength?
Mhm.
There's a music note that connects with each chakra. I know it moves like the scale. I know that the root chakra is a lower note and it moves up.
Mhm.
If your listeners are interested in that, I can find
Yeah.
a document and send that to you and you can share that with them.
I would love that.
And I can tell you this, a really easy way to listen to music that
Uh-huh.
matches your chakra that you want to heal is you go on
Mhm.
YouTube and you
Yeah.
put in the chakra name that you want to work on and
Okay.
then you put frequency. Or you can just put music. And there are tons of music already out there that's created in the wavelength that you need for that chakra.
Something that you were mentioning earlier was the heart chakra, where you were talking about that you feel all these different types of loves and things. It's like talking about the energies. It reminded me of when I was in college. I was in a class and we learned about the Greeks, and
Mm-hmm.
they had this like theory that there were three types of existence, for lack of a better word, and they equated it to music. And they
Okay.
said there's the universe, there's the music of the universe, and then there's the music of the physical world, and then there's the music that we make as human
Okay.
beings. Each one was like higher than the next. The music that we make is the lower form of the universal music. And then the natural world was more, and the universe had its own music, had its own rhythms and things. And it's interesting that you mentioned that it follows a pattern. So in music, there's something called the overtone series where it follows a pattern. I can actually play it for you real quick. You have your starting note, whatever it is. Then you go up an octave. So we have those. And then you go up a fifth, and then a fourth, and then a third, and then another third. And then it starts to just get smaller and smaller.
It's
The
like a backwards Fibonacci sequence.
It is, and the planets follow the overtone series.
Oh, there's so many repeating things in those series.
Yes.
I think that's also why it's really cool to learn about sacred geometry, is
Yeah.
they go together. And there's a different geometry that goes with each chakra.
It's so interesting to find these things. Can you talk about the history of Reiki? Where does it come
Yeah.
from?
Yeah. Okay. So Reiki was first like around like many thousands of years ago. And then a man named Yusui was in Japan in the 1800s, early 1900s. He got really sick and he was meditating and reading some old Sanskrit documents, and he found some information about it, and he went up on a mountain and he got the downloads for it. And so he started using it on himself, and he was able to heal himself from this illness that he had. And it was,
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what it was, but it was just like a common thing that was around at the time.
Yeah.
And then he started using it with other people and
Mm-hmm.
seeing how it helped other people. And then he started training some other people, and he didn't train a lot of people. Then there were two other people who started training people as well.
Yeah.
And one was a woman who was from Hawaii. She went to Japan in like the 1920s, and she learned it and brought it to the United States. And it's really interesting to me because she felt it was very elite. And like back in the 1920s, she was charging like tens of thousands of dollars to attune people to be Reiki practitioners. It was very closed practice back then. And as time has progressed, it has become much more open and much more accessible. At one point, the Reiki symbols were very secretive, very
Wow.
sacred. Nobody could learn about them. If you go on the internet and you look up Reiki symbols, they're everywhere. I don't charge thousands. I charge about $100 per Reiki level to train someone on how to be a Reiki practitioner. You can find it on Udemy on sale for super cheap. So Reiki's not a really closed practice anymore. It's something that I feel like the more Reiki practitioners we can get, the better the planet will be. Because every time we heal ourselves, we're helping to heal the planet.
As you're mentioning, everybody's interconnected. The more that one person is healed, the more that the next person, and then the next person, and the next
Well,
person.
let me share this with you. This has been super cool for me to watch. My oldest daughter
Uh-huh.
is on the autism spectrum, and she was so hard as a kid and as a teenager and in her early adult. So I have been practicing Reiki for about 3.5 years now. And as I have been healing me, I've been watching her change. She is getting so much better. She's managing her moods. She's been able to get a job and hold a job. She's married. She's got 2 kids, and it was really hard for her at the beginning. Like, I had custody of her kids off and on for quite a while, but she's had her kids for almost 2 years now. She's been managing. It's still really hard for her. She's got, they called it pervasive developmental delay, which is
Mhm.
part of the autism spectrum, and they've gotten rid of all the weird diagnoses that go with it. But
Yeah.
I would say that, like, when she first got married and she first had her daughter, she was probably 20 something going on 12 emotionally. And I would say she's now more like 20 something going on 17. So it's still hard because you would not really want to put a 17-year-old in that situation. But she's had a lot of growth, and
Yeah.
it's been really fun to watch her grow as I am healing.
That's interesting that you're healing yourself and it's starting to heal next
Mm-hmm.
generations. That kind of
Mm-hmm.
sounds like a lot of times when people are breaking those intergenerational curses.
I do a lot of that kind of work in my practice. We do a
Yeah.
lot of intergenerational, we do a lot of ancestral healing. We do a lot
Yeah.
of stuff that helps to break patterns so that
Yeah.
you're not continuing the crap down your family line.
Right.
It'll be really interesting to see how things are changing with my grandchildren. I wish I could see more of it happening with my mom and my grandma. I'm not seeing that yet.
I have found that energy tends to flow into younger people a little easier.
Easy. We're open to it.
They're so much more accepting, and maybe it's just the generation that they were. It's I've noticed it definitely with my parents. I love
Mhm.
my parents, so if they ever hear this, I love you guys. But I definitely noticed that my siblings are more willing to jump into things and change than like
Yeah,
my parents or my grandparents or my
right.
uncles or aunts. So you mentioned earlier that music is really helpful and can be really healing. And I'd love to hear more about that.
The first time I noticed how music affects people outside of myself, I was a Christmas caroler at Wheeler Farm, and we dressed up in these ridiculous costumes. So I was in this bonnet and long, and we were singing the fun Christmas carols, right?
Mhm.
And then we switched to the more subdued, like Away in a Manger and Silent Night kind of stuff. And there were some kids who were around us, and they were at first bouncing off the walls. Then when we switched over to more like the hymns, those kids just, they calmed down. So first there's like the tempo of music can really affect you, which is why when you go to a yoga class, you're going to have more soft, subtle music. But
Mhm.
when you go to an aerobics class, you got that upbeat music. When you want to work on your chakras, you want to find music that matches the energy of whatever it is you're trying to work on. Everybody has different music taste, and that's totally
Mhm.
fine. It doesn't matter what kind of music you listen to. You can listen to rap and hip hop, and that can work. You can listen to country, you can listen to classical. All music has the potential to be healing. I would not recommend like screamo, but that might actually be healing if you're sitting in a place of anger and you need to release anger. And so I just caution with it. Use
Yeah.
it the right way. Music is super healing, and music can be meditative.
Yeah.
Music can be meditative when you're practicing it. It can be meditative when you're singing it. It can be meditative just listening to it. Music is powerful.
I remember I was teaching this student, and I remember telling her, as a performer, you get to handle the energy of the room. And she was
Oh,
looking at me like,
definitely.
you sound like you're crazy. Have you ever been around somebody who's really happy and all of a sudden you just feel happier? That's their energy. And I love how science is even like starting to catch up to these centuries, millennia old techniques that people are using, and they're saying there actually is an electromagnetic field.
Yeah, science has shown that there's a different energy around the
Yeah.
hands of an attuned Reiki practitioner.
This student, I was like, you get to shape the energy. A lot of people, when they get up on stage, they get a lot of stage fright. I have found a lot of it is they're not used to that level of energy.
Because you've got the whole audience aiming their energy at you. They're expecting you to change their energy, even though that's not what they're thinking in their head.
A lot of times when we have that level of energy directed at us, we feel like it's a threat. Normally, a crowd of 50, 100, 5,000 people don't look at one person with good intent. Normally, like evolutionarily, that's not what our brains are used to. You don't have to accept all of that energy. I was like, you can take it, put it into the music, and reflect it back. And as you do that, then it becomes this almost tide of energy coming and going.
It creates a flow.
Yeah, I remember being in college and like feeling that for the first time. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best feeling in the world. I get to create with all these people. So it's no longer I'm up on stage performing and you guys are just listening to me.
It's we are working it together.
You get to be that person for all of these people, and all of these people are going to come away from that changed in some way, shape, or form.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember the first, I think it was the first performance that I was really able to tap into that energy. I had somebody come up to me a week later and they were like, oh my gosh, you're that girl. And I was like, who are you? And they were like, oh, I was at your piano recital. It was for all the piano majors. And they were like, I remember you because that was the first time I really fell in love with piano music. And I was like, what? I don't mean to sound like bragging or anything, but it really wasn't anything special that I did. It was how I was able to tap into that energy. And they were able to accept that back. They were able to become part of the performance.
I was reading recently about how we can heal our bodies through movement. And one of the things that is said was that being part of a choir can heal your body. There's that movement and you're all working together and you're all sharing that energy. And it really hit me. I was like, oh, no wonder I loved being in a choir. No wonder I miss it. I haven't found a choir since my last choir director had some health problems and she quit. And I haven't found another choir that I feel like I want to be part of. But I miss it. I miss that, the community of music.
What are some like things that I guess some of the listeners could work on either through music or kind of on their own that might help them heal some of these?
The first thing I would recommend is you start to pay attention to how music makes you feel and to start using that and think about how do I want to feel and what music makes me feel that way. And you can match it together. Because if you're listening to sad music, if you're not releasing it, it's going to keep you stuck there. So I would recommend that if you're feeling sad, you can listen to sad music, but make sure you're feeling your feelings. Because if you're not feeling your feelings, you're stuffing them, and that's when they cause havoc. So feel your feelings as you're listening to the music. Feel it. I know so many of us are so out of touch with our feelings.
Yes.
We were not taught as children how to feel. Our feelings were squished down. How many times were you as a child told things like, be quiet, you're being too loud, go play somewhere else? My dad would say things like, let me give you something to cry about. He didn't want us to cry. He couldn't handle our emotions. So as children, we're not taught how to feel our feelings. And so as adults, we have to relearn that. We have to let ourselves sit in for a little bit. Because if you don't, you're stuffing it. I stuffed for a long time. That's why I got sick. That's why I got an autoimmune disorder, is because I was not dealing with my emotions. I wasn't holding my boundaries. I was allowing all of this crap to happen. And so now when I feel like, oh, this just feels like crap. I was just recently diagnosed with a new disorder and I had to hire a therapist to get through it. But I knew I don't want to sit in this crap this time. I want to feel it. I want to get through it. I want to move on. It is really normal when you get diagnosed with a chronic illness to go into depression. Feel the depression. Listen to the depressing music for a little bit so that you feel it. And then once you've felt it, move on to something better. Move to something happier. I just responded to someone's post on Facebook today. She had asked, what books do you like to read when you're feeling stuck? And everybody's posting these great self-help books. And I responded, I like to read a comedy. Because when I'm stuck, it's my vibe is stuck and I need to lift my vibe. Reading self-help books can be helpful. They can. They're great. But if I am feeling stuck and I'm reading a self-help book, I'm like, more crap I gotta do? But reading a comedy is uplifting. So when you're feeling down and crappy, move through the music types. change the music type. So listen to the depressing stuff and then move into something happy and uplifting. Maybe even listen to something silly. Like we listen to a lot of silly music in my house because I have a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old grandkid. We listen to this song. I don't know exactly the name of it, but it's like Party Dance or something. And it gives you little movements you're supposed to do, and then it has you freeze. And the kids love it. And every time we listen to that kind of music, the vibe goes up in our house. And so, even though you might get freaking tired of things like Coco Melon or Pink Fong, they have their place. They're very uplifting.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us today about energy healing, energy work, explaining the different chakras. That was like super eye opening for me. I hope it's eye opening for other people. And thank you for helping us to see the role that music can have in our lives and how it can help us heal certain things and how it can help us work through those things.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. I enjoyed it. It was really fun to teach and share.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening, everyone. And yeah, have a wonderful, mindful day.